Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
Hello and welcome to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. No featured destination on the show this week, but instead I'm going to be talking about flights, and of course there'll be travel news at the end of the show. Now the reason I'm talking about flights this week is that I received an email from a website I'm a subscriber to, International Traveller, and it had a quiz about how well do you know the airline industry. I did really badly. In my defence, I just didn't know the answers, and it was American based as well, but it wasn't stuff that a civilian, as it were, would know the answers to, but an awful lot of people do book flights and they don't have the slightest idea about what they're doing. So this week I'm going to be talking to you about what you should look for when it comes to booking a flight when you're doing it yourself and you're using the internet. And as I say, booking flights online can be as easy as filling in your name and your payment card details. But if doing this, you could be missing out on better flights, deals, or maybe you're booking the wrong airport altogether. What do you mean the wrong airport? Well, later in the show and the travel news, I'm mentioned Manchester, New Hampshire. And there was a story going around a few years ago, I used to use it when I was networking, that somebody was flying from Los Angeles to Manchester, England, but instead he ended up flying from Los Angeles to Manchester, New Hampshire, and the guy started to think something was wrong when he got on a connecting flight. Instead of being on a big huge jumbo jet to get across the Atlantic, he was on a very small plane indeed, and that's because he wasn't clear about what he was asking for, and the person he did it over the phone, and the person over the phone didn't check what this person wanted. So you do have to be careful. So now I'm going to be talking about getting the most from your flight booking and how to prevent the mistakes that people can make when booking online. I'm also going to talk a little bit about compensation for cancelled flights, frequent flyer clubs, and lost luggage. What you should remember is airfares are not guaranteed until the tickets are booked or issued, and sometimes not even then if taxes go up before you depart. And the only way to guarantee the price is to buy your ticket as best as you can. It's the only way to guarantee it as best you can. So spending time trying to beat the price down may cause you actually to pay more because the ticket you found was cheaper could be gone. So if you like the price, you should book it there and then and stop looking. Some websites do allow you to hold the seats before booking, but there is a chance that the price may still go up. The delay in confirming may take you outside the booking range for that particular fare class, for example. I'll talk about fare classes in a bit. And even if you use your credit card details, you will not be guaranteed anything until the purchase is made. The card details just stop people holding the seats with various suppliers. What that means is ringing around trying to get the best deal for that particular that particular airline, that particular flight, by ringing around see if you can get it slightly cheaper, and you can have people holding options for you on that flight. But the airline can recognise that, so if you use your name, it won't allow you to book an option with another website. So, as I mentioned with this New Hampshire thing, the first thing you should check is your destination. Are you flying to Sydney, SYDNEY, or Sydney, SIDNEY? Or even Sydney or Sydney, with both spelled SYDNEY. There are plenty of examples of airports with similar names, and online bookers can get it wrong, although it is getting harder and harder to do that now. So it's not uncommon for travellers to end up in Sydney, Nova Scotia, instead of Sydney in Australia. And a quick search on Google, you will find stories of people who have done just that. This is why knowing the airport code is so important, and they reduce the chances of you flying to the wrong place. This airport code, or IATA code, is a three-letter code that uniquely identifies the airport. You may have noticed them in the past, when flying in the past, because the label printed on by the check-in staff for your luggage will have the destination airport code printed on it. For example, BCN if you're flying to Barcelona. IATA is the International Air Transport Association, and it represents over 90% of the world's scheduled airlines. As well as producing these codes, IATA has also introduced measures that allow certified agents to print multi-layered flight tickets, and also the e-tickets, which are what you'll get on booking mostly online. And these e-tickets have revolutionised the online booking industry, much easier to do than these multi-page paper documents you may remember from flying in the past. So when it comes to Sydney Nova Scotia's code is YQY, and Sydney Australia SYD. So you can see that if you know your codes, mixing up YQY and SYD is a lot harder than mixing up Sydney NS and Sydney NSW for Nova Scotia and New South Wales. You should still take care, as there is also an SDY, which is Sydney with an I, in Montana in the USA. It's also important for extras such as car hire and transfers, because another common mistake is to land at one city airport but arrange to hire the car from another. Florida gives these examples of passengers landing at Orlando International, MCO, but booking their car at Orlando Sanford International, SFB, which is around 25 miles away. So do make sure that you know your airport code.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie.
Join me here on Seclo Sounds.
In your smile.
This is from 1975. Eric and Ernie were four.
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Travel news, of course, includes a story that has Ryanair mentioned in it. It seems to be a run I'm having. I'm not too sure how many weeks, but it does seem to be happening every week at the moment. But this week I'm talking about flights and booking flights online. It's based on a quiz that I did a few days ago, which was sent to me via an email. So you know where you're going, you've got the flight codes, but how do you book it? Well, there's basically four types of booking reservation websites on the internet. There are virtual travel agencies, there are travel agencies, there are tour operators, travel providers, airlines, and a larger service providing websites that also offer flights as well as other services, which may think they're the same sort of thing. But a virtual travel agent doesn't have any office you can go and visit. A travel agency, you can go and visit them if you wish. And everything else. The largest service providing websites can be a review site, it can be a consumer website, that sort of thing. And they all offer different levels as backup. And it can be assumed that the cheaper the price, then the more expensive or harder it's going to be to reach the backup should you need to contact someone. There are also price comparison websites, and they promise to save you money on any consumer goods, and others are specifically for travel. They're not booking websites, and they may gain their revenue from affiliate links or by advertising. So if you click on a cheap flight, they might get a few pence if you book. And if you're like me, you've used something like Skyscanner for an awful lot of times. Most of the time the prices bear no resemblance to the final price, but that's another story. If you are travelling alone, ensure that you only search for the price for one person. Some websites default to 2 passengers. And if you're travelling for a group, don't try and get the price for one passenger. Get the price for the amount of people who are in your group. And if there's 9 or more of you, then I'm afraid you're going to have to pick up the phone, because very few websites allow anybody to get a price for 9 or more. And this is because the way that the airlines are sorted out, the seats are sorted out, but I will talk about that in a little while. When it comes to searching online though, you may find that you can't get flights from airports which are not inside the UK. So you have to be slightly careful about which websites you use. There are some that do that, but some don't. And why would you want flights outside the UK? Well, you could be putting your own little itinerary together around the world, flying to Chicago, a major hub, then flying from Chicago to somewhere else. And you found that it's cheaper by getting flights for different airlines. And you may find that some websites don't allow you to do that. So it's something you should be aware of. But if you are looking for flights starting from another country, then the airline's own website is probably the best place to start. Not all flight comparison websites have charter flights included, which would be really useful because sometimes if you're flying with Thompson to somewhere well known, say Tenerife South, you might find that there's a really good deal on a charter flight, and these price comparison websites just don't have them. So you also need to know which airline flies to the destination you're going to, so you can then go through the airlines one by one to make sure you've not missed out a great deal on a charter flight. And also sometimes the no-frill airlines are not included, or if they are included, then the prices are going to be really out of date. So these flight booking websites, flight searching websites, should show you the full price. But it is common, well, it used to be common practice to show you the seat price and then miss off the taxes, although that is becoming rarer and rarer, and you're very naughty now if you do that sort of thing, because of action by the European Union. As a travel agent, I used to be sent all these offers. Look at these seat prices, look at these seat prices. Then it says taxes not included, and the taxes could be another 60% on top. That is very naughty. So Skyscanner, as I mentioned, skyscanner.net, can help you to find out which airline flies to which destination. Although if there's a particular airport you want to use, you can go to the airport's website and that will tell you if you can fly direct from the airline's destination to the airline. Fly direct from that airport to where you want to go. And that brings me to the next bit. You can have direct flights, you can have non-stop flights, and you can have connecting flights. So connecting flights are quite obvious. You go to one airport, then you get on another plane and go to the next airport. But a lot of people confuse connecting and direct and non-stop. A direct flight doesn't mean that you're not going to stop between the airport you left from originally to your final destination. A direct flight could stop and you'll stay on the plane and then it takes off again and then you go on to your destination. Cayman Islands, which I mentioned in Travel News, you fly from Heathrow and you fly to the Bahamas. You stay on the plane and you take off again from the Bahamas and you fly to the Cayman. That is a direct flight. It's not a non-stop flight. So you do need to be aware of the differences because you could be stuck for 2 hours or so on the runway waiting to take off. And you may find you get to the airport that you can't see your final destination because the airport will only show you that you're flying to the Bahamas. And it can be quite a shock to you if that's when the first time you find out you're not actually flying non-stop to the Cayman Islands. When it comes to fares, travel agents do have one or two tricks up their sleeves, so it may be worth speaking to a proper travel agent because they have what's called an IT or an ITX fare, and that is an inclusive tour. So that basically means it's a discounted ticket, but there are rules attached to the ticket. And the rule is that you must book accommodation or car hire or perhaps both. And it can save you quite a lot of money with an IT fare. And if you're going to be going somewhere, the chances are you're going to need a hotel anyway. So going to a travel agent, get an IT fare and accommodation could save you a lot more money than searching on the internet for hours trying to get the best price. Of course, there are ways around it. I mean, check the accommodation. You might only need to have the accommodation booked for one night. So you can go to the travel agent, get the IT fare, book accommodation in a really cheap and dingy, horrible, nasty place for a few quid, and then go and stay where you want to stay instead of staying at this hotel. That's one way around it. And when we come back in a few moments, I'm going to start talking about the fare rules, which is something most people are completely unaware of.
This is Seclo Sounds, and you can listen to us by clicking Listen Live on our homepage at seclosounds.org for a choice of players. Via TuneIn Radio at www.tunein.com, search for Seclo Sounds and listen online or download the TuneIn app. You can download the Seclo Sounds iPhone app from the iTunes App Store, and you can listen to us on demand at our replay page.
You can contact me at john.guinn@seclosounds.org.
This is Seclo Sounds. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for 1 hour in the company of Harry and Edna on the Wires, exploring all aspects of the vintage scene.